Hello and welcome to Be Kind Rewinder. I am your host and managing editor of the website, Scott McRae, the good one, the funny one, the one that everyone loves. The rest of them just disappeared to Germany, so I'm stuck running the prison this week, which means I've had to enlist what I'm contractually obliged to say is special guests. We've got Issy from everywhere, I guess. Issy the freelancer, filling in for the bald contingent now that Henry is once again dearly departed. And returning guest, Will Borger, from Skybox and also other places, I believe. On this episode, we will speak, we will sneak, and we will tweak over how bad that Gamescom show was. Before that, I'm not a good host. Bear with me. I don't like reading off the script. Once we get into the good bits, we'll get into the good bits. Thank you, Jerem, for this podcast art that you're seeing that no one else is seeing. And it says banter, which is apparently... I don't know if I have to actually read banter or if we're just to go into it. So... how are we, Will? How are we, Issy?
I'm beat, man. I gotta tell you, it's been a crazy week. It's gonna be a crazy couple of weeks. I don't know if you guys are looking at like embargo dates and when stuff is coming out, but I'm just kind of sitting here like,
yep.
I just write the news, so you know.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. I'm getting things where it's like, hey, you want to do this game? You know, embargo is early September, and I'm just kind of sitting here like, do you know how many games have embargoes in early September? I'm gonna be at PAX. Like it's a whole thing right now. But you know, Gamescom's going on. PAX right around the corner. TGS is what, in a month. And then everything is releasing too, so it's great. Nobody sleeps.
It's pretty fucked up. We don't know when Metroid's coming out, right? Because I feel like that's going to be like, oh, it's out in 2 weeks. There you go.
That is gonna be 100% a Nintendo Direct. Like, you can play it in 3 weeks, or you could play it now. They might actually like shadow drop that game.
Maybe.
I mean, who knows, man? Nothing makes sense anymore. But, like, you used to have hype cycles and stuff. Like, games used to get things like for months and months and months and build, and now it's like, yeah, Silksong, 2 weeks.
That's what everyone should do, I think.
When you've got games like GTA 6 out there, I mean, there's always a chance a bigger game drops on the same day, so why waste the time and money and energy? Just release your game.
Exactly.
And
yeah, I mean, it's for real.
If it's
and
good, people play it.
It's worked out good, right? It's worked out great for Nintendo. God knows how many times they've had a Direct where they're like...
Worked really well for Hyper Rush. Obviously, it doesn't work for everything, but it can work.
It can work. Like, see this cool-ass thing? You could just go play it, which is good, right? And it's also, like... It's stressful for us. I remember when they announced and released, Hi-Fi Rush and Ninja Gaiden on basically the same day, and it was like the remake, and it was like, cool.
Oh yeah.
I guess I know what I'm doing tonight. Like, I have to work on this now.
I was on the train home when Ninja Gaiden got announced, and I think I sent about like 10 emails in the span of like 5 minutes, just being like, "Hello, do you need this? Hello, do you need this?" Issy, I've been dealing with you all day, but how are you anyway?
I'm good. I managed to nip to the gym quickly after work, so that made me feel good and healthy. Very proud of myself.
What a fucking loser.
I've been reading more as well, trying not to just play video games and watch TV all the time, because I could physically feel my brain atrophying. So I've started reading more and playing chess with my girlfriend. So that's all been nice.
Sophisticated.
I feel like
I'm media. What are you doing here?
I feel like I'm fixing years of cerebral damage.
But could I suggest YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels and
I still get a healthy amount of that. Don't worry.
And putting oatmeal in a funnel and putting that directly into your ear, yeah, sounds good, Scott.
I don't want to go first. So, Will, is this Ninja Gaiden you've written down that you've been playing? Is this Ragebound by any chance, or is this the original?
It is, yeah. It is Ragebound.
So
that game is cool.
Yeah, we were very positive about Ragebound last time. So what have you got to say about Ragebound?
I think it's really interesting to kind of like rethink what a 2D Ninja Gaiden game is in 2025, right? Like to sit there and be like, this series has such a legacy both in the 2D space and the 3D space, and that legacy is difficulty, and that legacy is a very specific kind of art design and a lot of freedom for the player to kind of approach things in specific ways, but also again like really, really challenging, very unique. Nothing really quite plays like Ninja Gaiden in either 2D or 3D. And so, giving it to a studio like Game Kitchen and being like, please cook. And then having them be like, we can do that. And it looks gorgeous. It sounds amazing. It's extremely replayable. It's got that extra difficulty mode if you beat the game that you can jump into. There's these level-specific challenges that are actually quite hard, many of which actually require you to play the whole level without restarting, which is really great. So for them to lean into the identity of that, I think is really cool. And for people to get a Ninja Gaiden and get an idea of what Ninja Gaiden is and what games like that look like in 2025, I think is really awesome. And I've beaten it and I'm going back to it every now and then, and I can't really stop thinking about like, man, this is really smart. I wish more retro revivals kind of approached it with the mentality of what is this thing? How do we take that, add our own spin onto it, while also like keeping it the thing that we know that it is, right? So I think Ragebound does a really good job of that. And You're the Ninja, man. We got Shinobi coming out. We got Ninja Gaiden coming out. Like, so, You're the Ninja.
So I played Ninja Gaiden. I did the preview for it back in like February, and I like obsessed over it. Like after I played it, I went and bought The Messenger and Katana Zero, and I played them. And I played like 5 minutes of them. I was like, this doesn't feel the same. Like I wanted that back. And after playing that, I was like, man, Shinobi's getting no chance. And then that Shinobi demo came out, and Jesus Christ, that game has got the sauce. That's out, I believe, next week. So I'm excited to actually get my hands on that. We don't have that in here, but they're adding Dr. Eggman into it, apparently. Which, sure.
I don't know how that's going to work, but everything is Fortnite, so it's fine. Like,
I love Fortnite. I love Fortnite so much. Do you see they're adding more Squid Game to Fortnite? We'll maybe get to that later. I don't know, but
I think the funniest possible outcome of Fortnite is when the human race is extinct. When the aliens get here, the only thing that they find of our culture is Fortnite, like somehow on a working server, and they boot it up, and they're trying to figure out like what Alan Wake is and why he's fighting Godzilla. Right?
I mean, that's pretty much everything though. Like Fortnite is basically our Bible now, because it's got literally everything in it now. They're doing a Simpsons season in the next couple months, like a dedicated Simpsons season. Like they've done Marvel and Star Wars and all that, but we're talking dedicated Simpsons season, which seems, I don't know. I'm excited for it because I love dumb shit like that, but I can.
I look at Fortnite and I'm confused. I'm like, I don't get it. I'm weird. I like things to be their own things. I very much want like, I guess characters in fighting games are fun. Like guest appearances and stuff is fun. Link being in Mario Kart's fun. But I think it's weird that everybody just kind of wants the characters they like and all the other things that they like. And I'm just like, I kind of like it when these things are by themselves and I just go to that thing and I get the thing. But again, I'm old. It's fine.
I'm somewhere in the middle. Sometimes I'm like, okay, this is funny. Like Fortnite, it's beyond caring. Like they could add whoever the fuck they want in Fortnite now, and I'd be like, okay, that's fine. Like I like when it comes to Fortnite, I like the funny stuff, like something really absurd getting added, like Squid Game being added to it is like hilarious to me. But when stuff like Call of Duty does it, I'm like, this is maybe a bit like, why
and then it just looks weird, right? It's like serious military operator man and like Ninja Turtle, and you're like, wait a minute,
Beavis and Butthead. But
I like it in Fortnite. I think it works in Fortnite. Fortnite's whole shtick has always been this: it was already a kind of like cartoony aesthetic anyway. Like Sabrina Carpenter hitting the gritty, very funny. Godzilla like shooting hoops, very funny. But yeah, take that out of Fortnite and make every game like Fortnite, and it's just a bit blah.
Oh, I almost done something bad there. I almost broken embargo there. It's yeah. I mean, I think it just depends on what it is, because obviously, like, Tony Hawk's been doing it since like the PS1 days.
Remember Darth Maul and Tony Hawk? That was cool.
Yeah, like, I'm pretty sure every single one of those up until like the PS3 had some weird character in it. Like, one of them had Shrek, I'm sure. Which is fine, but I feel like since in the post Fortnite world, the way multiverse is for like comic book movies is the way that I kind of feel about crossovers in games. But if we speak about Call of Duty, Issy, talk about Battlefield, which is a bad game because it doesn't have Hank Hill and Beavis and Butthead in it. So
yeah, I played the beta over the last couple of weekends, and that's been really good fun. I was, obviously a COD kid. Modern Warfare to Modern Warfare 2, well, sort of into Black Ops as well, but Modern Warfare to Black Ops, I'd say, was like the peak of me, every day after school, get home, bang out the homework as quickly as you can, and then jump on COD to play with your mates. But most of my friends at the time were completely divided between PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. And my PS3 just died on me one day while I was playing Brink, if anybody remembers that game. A game I maintain was ahead of its time. If that came out in the PS4 era, it would have been some way better.
I don't get this. I feel like everyone bought Brink. Like, I don't know why. I don't know what was in the water, but I know so many people who bought Brink. No one likes it, except like idiots like you. But no one likes it. But everyone bought it. I bought that shit day one. I went to Game and walked in, or Game Station at the time, walked in and was like, yeah, I'll have Brink, please. But I don't know why. I have no clue why.
It would have worked in the more live service era, I think. But anyway, it bricked my PS3. I got an Xbox 360 because I thought, let's try this new thing. And some of my friends who had Xboxes played Battlefield. So Bad Company 2, Battlefield 3, and Battlefield 4, I played to death. And I loved those games. By the time I got a PS4, it was like Battlefield 1. I pre-ordered that. Didn't enjoy it as much. Like, I really liked the modern setting, the like dense urban warfare. I think that's the thing the series is best at, like that large scale destructive combat. And I really love that the beta has just showcased the best of that. Yeah, it would have been nice to have seen some bigger maps, but I think it's important to remember this is just like a very small slice of what we can get. And I'm guessing, with a huge map, there's more scope for issues and bugs and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I've been really impressed with it. I've really loved the revive feature, the fact that anyone can revive anyone. I think it's really good. It encourages teamwork. It encourages you to actually stick with your squad. I didn't get to play
not that it does it
with any of my mates. Say again?
Not that it does it, because I feel like I got revived maybe like 3 times across both weekends, I think.
I think, as with any sort of team-based game, unless you're actually playing with people it's very rare you're going to get a good team. Unless you're playing something like Helldivers, which is purely objective-based, I think, because in Battlefield, you can level up just by killing stuff. Sure, you get more points for playing the objective, but you get points for doing lone wolf stuff. You're never going to get the best experience unless you've actually got, like, you and 3 mates. So I'm really excited to actually get into it like that. I'm terrible at it now. Like, my reflexes are nowhere near where they were when I was 14, 15, 16. So it's been interesting reckoning with that fact. Like, can I still have fun if I play like crap? And I think I can. I actually found myself having a lot more fun playing as a recon class this time, which I never used to, because it was quite fun, like hanging back, surveying the situation, and just like tagging the enemies and thinking, I'm helping my team by doing this and getting the occasional headshot. Like, a headshot is still the most satisfying thing. And yeah, just the way the destruction actually feels like your own house is coming down. Like, the whole screen shakes and blurs. I always loved the suppressive fire effect that Battlefield had, where if an enemy's shooting at you, and even if they're missing you, as long as they're shooting near you, your screen starts blurring and like your own fire becomes less accurate. I love all that. I think it's a little bit closer to a simulator, like to a military simulator, than the arcadiness of COD, but it's not so far that way that it feels like Arma, where it's like, okay, one shot from across the map and you're done. I do think the time to kill is too fast now. Like, it felt like I was just dropping in half a second, like, had no chance to react. But again, that might just be me getting older.
I don't know if, again, it could just be me getting older, but I don't think I've played one since 4, maybe. Like, I don't remember it being that fast. Like, not the time to kill, like, the whole game. Like, moving about feels a lot faster to me as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
everything feels faster now.
I only ever had the 2 maps. I was playing the initiation ones, and I only ever got the Siege of Cairo and the other one. But apparently there were maps with, like, jets and stuff in it, which I didn't realise, which...
I don't think I didn't get it.
You played Battlefield on maps without jets?
I know, it's disgusting.
That's crazy. Okay, so listen, I'm going to be the old man here, and like, remember Battlefield Vietnam, man? Like, the vehicles are like half the fun, right? But it's also like Battlefield's in kind of a weird place because it's, I'm going to say this as generously as I can, hasn't really been great since Bad Company 2. Has been kind of like...
I mean, they got a lot of momentum with Battlefield 1, but I think that was more just because Call of Duty was all in on the like, future shit that no one wanted, and they went, here's the least future we can go, and make it make sense. But, I mean, Titanfall 2 was better than both of them, RIP to the best shooter of 2016.
Second best.
I don't know. As a full package, I think I'd give it to Titanfall.
Actually, you know what? I'll give it to Titanfall 2 over 2016 Doom.
Because the multiplayer in 2016 Doom was kind of stinky.
It is, and Eternal's a better game anyway.
I liked the multiplayer in Eternal, though. The battle mode, it was quite fun. I don't know how you felt about it, but I did play a decent amount of it. But for me, Battlefield was always... I always played 1943, like the Xbox Live Arcade one.
Oh my god!
And there was a mode in that was I can't remember the exact name of it. It was like the whole map was like 2 battleships on opposite sides of like an island, and it was just all dogfighting. And I used to love like just like slamming my plane right into the ship and stuff like that. And that's Battlefield to me. I don't know. Maybe that just means I'm a dickhead. But speaking of stuff that was popular in the Xbox 360 era and not anymore, I've been playing a shit ton of Yarg and Clone Hero, which are the open source rip-offs of Guitar Hero and Rock Band, or Rock Band and Guitar Hero for respectively. Because I got these things in. Which I am reviewing, but I'm in the process of it because I've got to test it. But so it's weird.
Scott.
Yes.
What are those? Where did you get them?
These are...
How can I get them?
These are the cracked Les Paul controllers. Now, cracked is like they do the Nitro deck and stuff like that, but it was...
I thought you just meant they were really good.
No, it's the CRKD, which is a weird name, I still think. But they did the Nitro deck and stuff like that. But it was founded by Red Octane staff, so the people who made the original Guitar Hero and did all the controllers.
I was about to say, that looks exactly like the
Guitar
Hero 3
so PDP,
like, exactly like it.
PDP put out the because of Fortnite Festival, basically they put out new stuff. So PDP put out the Riffmaster a couple of years ago, which is basically just the Rock Band 4 guitars, because they used to make the Rock Band 4 guitars. And so this is literally just like, obviously it's the Gibson, which was the Guitar Hero 3 one, but I mean, we're talking same kind of buttons, same kind of strum bar. And I tell you what, it is the most kind of ratatouille guy eating the meal ass experience I've had in a long time. Because I, for whatever reason, I don't like the Rock Band guitars. I think they're too flimsy, almost. Like
the strum bar doesn't feel as good.
These buttons are a nice click, you know. So my favorite guitar of all time is the Guitar Hero 4 one, which was basically this, but it had a little like grip there. So, but these are just like these are it, you know, like these are the like this is the guitar you want now, you know. I'll be writing a full review, so maybe not cannibalize that too much. But I mean, it's like, aside from this one being kind of ugly, because it kind of is, it's got that Game Boy Advance SP tribal tattoo thing going on. But they are like, it feels right. It feels like a really solid guitar in a way that the Rock Band ones never did. And it's interesting. So they sell two versions. They sell this one, which is a normal one, and the Pro one. And the Pro one, the big selling point, it's only like $15 more, but the big selling point is mechanical buttons and haptic feedback on this. And what a weird selling point for like a Guitar Hero game, because one, the mechanical buttons are fine, but it doesn't feel that much different. The haptic feedback in the strum bar is the most like why would I need that? And I suppose it is somewhat helpful when you're doing like a kind of sustained strumming. It kind of, but it's so weak that I didn't even notice it for the first like 20 minutes. But that one's also not got a tribal tattoo thing on it, so best as. But yeah, Yarg and Clone Hero are really. I've been playing mostly Yarg because I used to play Rock Band more, which is just the Rock Band version, but like all the songs you download work from the same. So I've got like every single Rock Band soundtrack, every single Guitar Hero soundtrack, tons of the DLC. And then there's the custom songs, which I've been getting really into. The whole South Park movie soundtrack was on there from someone. That one fart sound effect, like, you know, like the really nasty one, someone has charted that. And it's just like a 2-second clip, and it's just like it's brilliant. But yeah, it's like really cool kind of open source thing, and it works in that kind of same way that like those Zelda ports do, where it's like really interesting to see how they built this, like because I don't know if it uses actual like data from the main games, but it's like the same look and stuff like that. But this is more of a follow-up from last week, where we talked about how Red Octane's back and they're making their own rhythm game. But now that I've played this, I'm like, what do you do with that? Because like I've now got everything, you know? I've got this rhythm game on my PC, and I've got a search engine that has like every song I would want. So now I'm really interested to see what they actually do with a new one of these, you know? Like if Microsoft wants to make a new Guitar Hero, like what do you even do at this point? Because I think they're destined to die. They always were destined to die. And Fortnite Festival has the you know, the strategy of being Fortnite, which
can you get actual instruments like that for Fortnite Festival or no?
Yeah, so they added guitar functionality, so you can use like, you can use old guitars based on like what actually works in those consoles. But then there's you know, like you can play it on a controller. I've got this wee thing which is also from them, which, you know, it's the same kind of idea. But they only added that like a few months later, and it is cool, like, but at the same time Fortnite Festival's in that weird space of songs rotate and each song is like 500 V-Bucks, which I don't know what that transfers into not real money, but seems pretty expensive when the old songs were like 160 Microsoft points at the time. Whatever that is, I guess like $2, isn't it? Which is
it's like, yeah, it's like $2 or $3.
So it's kind of a hard sell, but it's
more than actually buying a song.
Yeah, I mean, who buys songs anymore? Huh? When's the last time you used iTunes? No, I mean, who buys songs in the sense of like you still buy music from iTunes?
Not from iTunes necessarily, unless I can't get it physically, but I still buy CDs.
Oh yeah, no, I buy like records and stuff. I still buy music, but I have not bought a song digitally, and God knows how long. Probably.
Yeah, I meant buying a digital song.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. I will for like it's in a small indie group and it's like Bandcamp or something, but shout outs to Mississippi Bones, who are great, and you should buy their Bandcamp stuff.
Tell me about Static Dread. What's Static? Is this the thing I'm thinking it is?
I don't know. What do you think it is?
Is this the horror game with Ben Starr and Neil Newbin?
No.
Oh no. What game is that?
No, I covered that game and I cannot remember the name. Dead Take?
Dead Take. That's what I'm thinking of. Sorry. What is Static Dread then?
Static Dread is it's a horror game, so you were half right. And it's set in this lighthouse. You are this lighthouse keeper, and there's this aurora that has kind of consumed the world and has made ship navigation impossible. So your job is to navigate ships through the waters as the lighthouse keeper. And what it is functionally is it's kind of a combination of like Papers, Please and No, I'm Not a Human, or maybe Look Outside. In that you never really leave the lighthouse. Like you're kind of stuck in there. You have 4 rooms, and you turn the lighthouse on, and sometimes you have to go fix it. But people come to the door and they'll interact with you, and they'll be like, "Hey, the town's getting really weird. They found this like fish dude washed up." It's very like Lovecraftian eldritch horror that's going on, that's causing the aurora and causing all these ships to go on. So
it's like Dredge, but you play as the lighthouse, not just the ship.
Yes, exactly. And so at like Papers, Please, it gets more complicated as it goes. Eventually your boss is like, "Hey, if you get a message from a ship and they start talking about like the ocean talking to them, maybe send them over here to the military," right? But it's this really cool game because you are constantly dealing with like what the right answer is, and the game does not tell you. I think a lot of games, especially mainstream games, like really broadcast what the right answer is in a given situation where you have to make a choice, and you see the effects of it very, very clearly, right? Very quickly. Whereas Static Dread, you make a choice and you might not find out what that did for several days, and then you're like, "Oh, this person is dead," or "Oh, I'm friends with this person. That's actually going to help me," right? But you don't see it immediately, and sometimes it feels like what the right choice is might actually be the wrong choice. And so it's really interesting to manage these relationships with these characters where there is no meter, there is no like you gained influence with this person, right? Like it's just kind of you talking to them. And then like you have to take care of, you only have so much money, you got to buy supplies for the lighthouse, you have to stay awake at night, you have to feed yourself, you have to not go insane because the lighthouse is being possessed by, tentacles and black goop, and like the lights turn off and you'll see stuff, you'll hallucinate things. And so you're trying to manage all this while navigating these ships, and it's actually really compelling. It was one of those games where, I know you guys know this, sometimes you're playing a game for work and you're like, I don't want to play this game right now. Like I literally just want to watch TV or read a book or do anything. I want to go outside, I want to play with my dog, I want to do anything else but play this game, right? And it's not that the game is bad, it's just like you kind of resent having to play it on a timetable, right? Static Dread was like, I was playing it on a Steam Deck and I was like, I'm having a good time. I'm just gonna keep playing Static Dread, which I think is really cool, and it's not super long. It's like 14 hours or so, 12, 14 hours. But it is really compelling, and it does ask you to like make interesting choices while you're doing that and pay attention to a lot of stuff. Like near the end, you're getting a ship, and it's like, hey, all right, you have to check the registration number on the ship. You have to check the pilot. You have to check the pilot registration number. You have to check what kind of ship it is. You have to check that kind of ship is allowed to go to this kind of point. You have to check the draft of the ship, right? You don't want to run them aground. And so doing all that while like, hey man, there's tentacles in here. I'm trying not to go crazy, right? There's like an eldritch god contacting me on the radio. Shit is wild. It's really neat. I think horror has the ability as like a genre to do really cool and interesting things, and it's cool to see small projects really run with that, because so many other genres are so codified into what they do, right? Like a shooter always plays the same way, Whereas a horror game can be like, we can just kind of play around with this and then go crazy. So Static Dread is neat.
I love the sound of a game that's like you have to deal with, the horrors while also just doing your day job. Feels very...
May I suggest like, Five Nights at Freddy's?
Yeah, it's interesting because like there are days where it's like you plan poorly, right? And it's like, I don't have enough food, I'm getting tired, and like the game does a really good job of making you feel it in the gameplay. Like if you get tired, your eyes start to close. You can see less, and you start blinking rapidly, like trying to stay awake, and you're like, oh God, And if you fall asleep, like, hey, that's money that's out of your paycheck. That's a ship that doesn't make it to port. Like that's bad, man. So, and dealing with the horrors too, like even just something as simple as being like, I bought a lantern from the guy who sells supplies, and I can carry the lantern with me when I need to go turn the lighthouse back on because sometimes it gets turned off. Like little choices like that. And sometimes you're just sitting there and there's tentacles all around you and you're like, I have to navigate this one ship and then I can turn the lights back on. So yeah, I think that like the idea of dealing with the horrors while having a job, while doing this crazy stuff, to Scott's point, like Five Nights at Freddy's, right? Like is a really interesting conceit, because sometimes horror games are just about like surviving the horror thing, and it's like, this point isn't really for you to survive this, although it is helpful because you're the lighthouse keeper, but it's like, I am responsible for these ships, right? And making sure that these other people are safe, which is a cool take on it.
I think playing Dredge, I realized that I am very scared of the sea.
Sea is terrifying now.
I never finished Dredge, but see, the first time you like roll up one or like pull up one of the fish that is like all fucked up, like seeing it and like the noise it made, like the kind of music sting, actually made me like feel a pit in my stomach. Like I felt sick. And then I realized at that point, oh shit, the sea's really scary. I just thought of a good one. Speaking of beached things and the sea, Death Stranding is the first one you were playing, right, Izzy?
Yeah, I've been playing the first one because I don't even know what got me into it. My old housemate I watched my old housemate play the first one during the first COVID lockdowns in 2020, and it was the perfect game to just watch, because so much of it plays like a movie and so much of it's just like a walking simulator that, he was furloughed, so he was just chilling at home all day playing video games. I had sort of just started by that point, sorry, I wasn't writing about games, I was finishing my master's degree. So I was at my desk. Anytime I wanted to stop writing my dissertation, I just look over, watch him play for 20 minutes, watch a cutscene, then get back to work. And so I've really wanted to get back into it, like to properly get into it myself and experience it. And maybe a month and a half ago, I got all my wisdom teeth taken out, like all 4. And the dentists and doctors were like, you should take a full week off work, because it's going to be rough, it's going to be painful.
You should play Death Stranding.
So I thought, at a time when I can't really talk properly, I'm a bit too drugged up and in pain to like do much. Let's play a game about connection and being outside. So even though it wasn't the same vibe as like I'm literally in lockdown, it still gave me that same feeling of like, oh, I'm connecting people, isn't this nice? And just last night, I finally finished rebuilding all the highways that connect the central area of the map. And man, that felt good. Like, I think it's a really brave game in that when you're walking, obviously so much of your brain power is spent on like putting one foot in front of the other, balancing yourself, scanning for BTs and like lost cargo, and just thinking about the route you're taking. Once you've got the highway set up, you just drive. Like, it's easy, there's nothing to do other than just move. And that's when movement becomes how it is in most other games, which is just you push forwards, you go forwards, don't have to think about it beyond that. But there's so little music in Death Stranding. I mean, the music that is in the game is very, very impactful. But most of the time, when you're just out in the world, not on a main story mission, just doing the deliveries or like trying to get 5-star connections or rebuilding the highways, it's just silence. And I think that's really interesting. This game that just lets you think. So you have that kind of effect of being on a long journey where there is downtime and there is boredom and there's just you and the road or the scenery, and you just kind of think about your life or the game. I really like it, and it's the first Kojima game I've like properly sunk my teeth into and played. And it did make me realize, like, I know a lot of people don't like crediting any one person with a video game too much, because obviously games are such collaborations, right? So I know he's not like the sole arbiter of what Death Stranding is, but it did make me realize I do love a game that's clearly very directed and is like, you can tell with something like Death Stranding, it is one person's idea and everyone else is working very much to make that idea a reality. It's not a game that feels designed by committee. It's like, this is one guy's weird shit that he wanted to put in a game, and I just really love that for it. I think it's why so many indies do so well, because you have such small teams. It's like the idea of one or two people, and they're just making that thing, and everyone's on board with like, yeah, cool, let's do this.
Yeah,
that's been really refreshing.
I think the way people talk about Kojima sometimes, where they're like, "Oh, he doesn't make the game all by himself." I don't think anyone actually says that. Like, you know, it's kind of speaks to where we are in games as well, where like hundreds of people make movies as well. You know, hundreds of people make albums, but you don't see anyone calling it out by calling it like a Martin Scorsese film, you know? Like, obviously a lot of people work on these, but with Kojima specifically, and like there are others, like Suda51's and other, More Inspectors and other, where like you play the game and you know you're playing a game by this person, and there's not really any game like that. Like, even, you know, I'm trying to think of like an example, but it's completely blanking me, but like there's no other game where like I'd play it, and even if it's like based on Metal Gear, it doesn't feel like Kojima. Even like the non-Kojima Metal Gears kind of don't feel like Kojima, you know. So I do get that. To kind of go back to your other point, it's interesting with the music, because in Death Stranding 2 you do actually get like a sound system kind of thing, so
Okay.
you can listen to music whenever you want. And I got it, and in the first game I was like, oh, that'd be a really cool thing to have, like when playing it. And then I got it in the second game and I was like, I don't want this. Like, I don't think I actually listened to music much while I was out and about. Yeah, on Death Stranding 2, because I'm like,
I got what I wanted and it was terrible.
Yeah, exactly. It's weird, right? But like when I was playing it,
that's been a common critique of Death Stranding 2, isn't it? That it kind of sands down some of that potential roughness and some of those potential pain points from the original.
It's weirdly, after like all those months of him being like, oh, I made this game weirder to make it review worse or whatever, it is weirdly, I think, the safest sequel he has ever done. You know,
I think it's really funny that this is not a Will hitting on Hideo Kojima thing. I want to be very clear about that. But I do think it's funny that, you know, in his GQ interview, this man is sitting here talking about like, I didn't want my video games to be too mainstream. You were a video game director having a GQ interview.
Yeah,
brother, that time has passed.
I mean,
we are far beyond that point, right? And I do think it's interesting that he talked about like wanting to make the game less, I don't know, more frictiony, less easy. Mm-hmm. And then like the game we got is like fairly frictionless and like way easier than the first. I'm just like, what did that game look like before he you know, whatever they did, right? Like, how easy was it? And
I do wonder if that is maybe part of it, as we have played this before.
Yeah,
it could be. Yeah, it's also like, you know, we talk about this a lot, but new car smell is a really hard thing to replicate. Like, the first time you have an experience with something, like, you're going to be worse at it. It's going to be newer. It's going to be more, you know, unique and dynamic and intriguing. And the second time, like, it's the problem with sequels, right? The second time is like, I kind of know what I'm getting, right? So even if you do change it functionally, like, I kind of have a feel for like the flow of the thing or like the core of the thing. And it's like Kojima, I think, has largely avoided that with Metal Gear.
Yeah.
Mostly because every Metal Gear game is very different.
Yeah,
from
I mean,
each other.
There's DNA in each of them, you know, like you can see from Metal Gear 1 to Metal Gear 2, you kind of keep the almost grid-based infiltration, but now you've got, you know, the first person, all that to deal with, so you have to design that around being able to shoot and aim in first person. Then in 3, it's still infiltration, but now you've got the jungle, and then you know, 4 is whatever, and then 5's Peace Walker's Monster Hunter, and then 5 is, okay, what if we did Peace Walker but made it a console game, you know? As it's always kind of an interesting jump, which, yeah, with Death Stranding 2 is pretty much the same. But I feel like that's as good a time as any.
I was trying to set you up on this.
Yeah.
Actually, sorry. Before we move on, I finally have a use for my film degree. People do complain about directors, like people being like, "Oh, it's a Wes Anderson film." People do still get.
I know that. Yeah.
Like, no, it's not. It's everyone's film. But
I've been in the letterbox mines. I'm well aware.
Yeah, the older I get and the more just like, I don't know, art I experience, the more I think I'm on the side of like, yeah, sure, this isn't like a one person production in its entirety, but like one person's vision being brought to life by a team that all shares that vision. That's when I think you can get really, really
that's
things.
what I've always felt like it is, though. When you hear like a Hideo Kojima game or something, I've never thought like he sat and made all this himself. You know, it's always felt like this is his vision.
Every line of code was personally written by him.
But I mean, it's the same thing in film, right? Like nobody would ever, nobody would argue that Jaws or Saving Private Ryan was not made by a lot of other people other than Steven Spielberg. But like you look at his filmography and it's like there are things that are like, yeah, it's a Spielberg flick. Like you can see it.
I think it's a big part of like auteur theory where it is that argument of like, if it had a different director, would this thing have actually been that different? And I land on the side of yes, like it would have been very different. It wouldn't have been Jaws. It would have been something else. But I think there are still a lot of people who are like, no, at the end of the day, that would have still been Jaws, just very, very slightly different because it's like the main part, like the director, you know, the person who's this person game.
But I think those slight differences,
like, that role is overblown, and we think too much of it. And actually, like, give anyone that role, and they still would have. The team overall would still have produced a similar thing.
I think that slight difference is like the maker, though, because like when I think of like Hideo Kojima stuff, I think of in Metal Gear Solid 2, where he demanded that if you shoot the ice cubes, they melt realistically, or in Metal Gear Solid 3, where you fight the end, if you save during it and come back 2 weeks later, he's dead. You know, like that's the kind of shit that I think about with him. I need to force this because it's I've already mentioned it. I played the Snake Eater remake. I've reviewed the Snake Eater remake. This podcast is coming out late because I reviewed the Snake Eater remake. You can read.
Tell us about the Snake Eater remake.
You can read my
review. Have you played the Snake Eater remake?
You can read my review on techradar.com. But yes, I want to talk about it. How do you feel about remakes? Is my first question.
Izzy, do you want to take this, or should I go first?
I think. When did the original Metal Gear Solid 3 come out?
Almost 21 years ago.
4?
Yeah.
In that case, I'm okay with it because I think video games, unfortunately, are a medium that kind of makes it difficult to go back and play older things. I think there was recently a viral tweet saying like we shouldn't act like it's impossible to play old games, and it certainly isn't. But it is like, you know, you can watch an old movie by just downloading it, or like, you know, as long as it's on VHS or DVD, it's not that far out of the question that you have the tech just at home right now to enjoy it. But with games, like, you know, you either need a PS2 or like you need a PS2 or PS1 and the original disc. Like, it is tricky. I think the important thing to remember is that a remake just isn't the original. Like, it's a new thing. It's a reimagining of an original for a new, more modern audience. And I think as long as you keep that in mind and don't think of a remake as something that's meant to replace the original, you can enjoy it as its own work of art. I think as soon as you start being like, oh, there's a remake of Metal Gear Solid 3, therefore Metal Gear Solid 3, it's not canon anymore, like I can ignore it now. It's like, no, that game still exists and obviously has an important place in gaming canon. But now there's just a more modernized version that's playable on modern hardware. You know, you don't need to be as serious a fan or collector or enthusiast to just play this game and enjoy it.
So it's interesting you say that, because this is the same game. Well, go ahead, but we'll get back.
I was just going to answer the question. I hate remakes. I hate them. I think there's a couple that justify their existence, like the remake of Resident Evil 1. You know, there's a few that like really meaningfully changed what the game is in a way that's interesting. But a lot of them are Gus Van Sant's Psycho, which is to say it's like a shot for shot thing, right? Like it's like, hey, this is functionally the same thing. We've just updated it to be modern. And the thing is, like, most games are products of their time. They're like all art. They're products of the time. They're products of the environment. They're products of the consoles or the systems that they were developed for. Silent Hill 2 has so much goddamn fog because the PS2 couldn't render anything. Like, the atmosphere of that game is directly related to the console that it was made on. The way stuff gets rendered is based on, you know, that stuff. The way, like, you know, there's so many doors in the original Gears of War because they're loading screens. They're designed loading screens. Like, that changes the design of those environments. And I you know, to Izzy's point, I agree with part of it. I think that, yeah, games are really difficult because, like, you know, if you go like pick up a DVD of Casablanca or you download it or whatever, like functionally you're going to have the same experience of watching Casablanca, right? Unless they've done like a really terrible transfer that significantly messes with the film. And that's not true for games. Even if you play like a remaster or a re-release, like the odds are that something is going to functionally be different because it's on different hardware. It's going to look different. It's not going to work exactly the same way, right? But I think our problem is that we want to replace old games with remakes. Like, people, you know, we can argue that, hey, if you don't view it that way, it's fine. But like, games are a weird medium because they're the only creative medium I can think of where the next thing is supposed to replace the last thing. Sequels are supposed to replace the thing that come before them, right? Especially if it's a multiplayer game. And I think it's really weird that we're obsessed with fixing old games. Not like, you know, oh, it's not modern, it's not playable now. It's like, well, it was fine. It's just the controls are different. The game is the same thing that it's always been. Art doesn't age. It doesn't. It's the same stuff. If you have a problem with Eminem's lyrics, it was always that way. It didn't change, right? Like, we change. Our perspectives change. What we expect change. But the art is static. Unless, like, you know, it's a physical thing that gets ruined or defaced or whatever. And I think that, like, it's really weird that games especially have this need to, like, modernize it, to make it so that, like, oh, like, oh, if you like this control scheme, you can play it like this, instead of being like, nah, man, we should force people to play Metal Gear Solid 1 with that weird control scheme. Like, that's part of the experience. And I'm not against remakes in general, provided, again, they're good examples, right? But I do think we should be less, I want the thing that I like just prettier and with the stuff I don't like taken away, because that's what most people want. And I think that's a really weird way to do it. You know, that conversation has come up around FF7 a lot, the remake of FF7 and all that stuff. And there's a lot of people who are just like, I just wanted FF7 but prettier, and I'm like, why? Like, you have that game. You can go mod it and make it prettier. You know, I think it's weird. I think we should be more willing to step outside of our comfort zones as people who experience art and try to meet things on their own terms and realize that those things are the things that they are because of the time that they were made and the platforms on which they were made and the controller, you know, that they were built around. That's just me.
So, two good examples there. So, Final Fantasy VII and Resident Evil, they were both remade by the people who made them in the first place, you know, which I think gives that merit. I think, so to kind of go into Metal Gear, because I've danced around it, that game's, when they announced that game, they announced that the Master Collection, so you could play original Metal Gear Solid free on modern platforms, and I was like, great, don't need to worry anymore. Because I was worried, right? It's been 10 years since all the Konami stuff. I didn't really want them to mess with Metal Gear Solid 3. I thought it was weird they were starting with Metal Gear Solid 3. And then Silent Hill 2 came out, and I didn't love a lot of the changes in that. So it's weird. And then it comes out, and that is, it's Metal Gear Solid 3. Like, it is that Psycho remake, perhaps even stronger into that, where we're talking exact same layouts, exact same dialogue, because it's the same voice recordings, right?
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's not even like they didn't even get the same actors. It's literally the same. Yeah. As far as I know, it's this exact same voice files that they just yanked from MGS3.
As there are little bits, there's like that codec call we have with Paramedic very early on where she says like, oh, 2004 is going to be Godzilla's 60th anniversary or whatever. They do like, oh, and then in 2024, so like they've got like a couple little lines in there, and they've got lines to make the continuity make sense in terms of controllers and all that. But for the most part, it's literally the voice recordings. Like, even the awkward, like, it will be the end for the boy, like stuff like that is exact. Like, is it still in there exactly as it was?
Keep the camp.
You interrogate a guard in the game. I interrogated a guard, and he said, "Acid code Jehuti, a fucking cheat code for Metal Gear Acid on the PSP, a game you cannot buy anymore." It's still in there. It's like they were so afraid to even touch it, and I'm in such a weird spot with it because I didn't want them to really touch it. I didn't really want a Metal Gear. This is my favorite game of all time. I should clarify. I didn't really want a Metal Gear Solid 3 remake. If they did like Metal Gear Solid 1 or Metal Gears, like the Metal Gear games remade, and did it in like that Resident Evil style where like, or not Resident Evil 1, but like Resident Evil 2 and 3 and 4, where you take the concept and the storyline of this game, but it is a different game made to that. So like Resident Evil 2 remake isn't actually really a remake of Resident Evil 2. It just takes Resident Evil 2 and makes a new game out of it. If they'd done Metal Gear Solid 1, I'd probably be fine with them doing that, but because they started with 3, I was like, I don't really want them to touch it. But it is almost too accurate. So like very early on, you hit the credits, you hit Snake Eater, and they re-recorded that, right? But even in the new opening title sequence, it is original game designer Hideo Kojima, original artist Yoji Ishikawa. And okay, whatever, they go for it. I beat the game. It's the PS2 credits, like the exact same names, Kojima, all that. To find the actual credits of the people who worked on this remake, you go into the extras menu and go to the Delta version credits. It's like they are so afraid of it, and I get why, because like it's weird how Metal Gear Solid 3 is the most beloved one when it's the one that sold the least. I think maybe Peace Walker beat it out, but like out of the first 4, it sold the least by a kind of wide margin. And they remade it because it's the one that people love and it's the best one, but they were also, that also seems to made them so afraid that even the slightest change might have like caused it to fuck up. And I get it in a way because it has been 10 years since the last Metal Gear game. I mean, you had Survive, but like obviously how Survive went down, doesn't really help it. And people are so fervent about Kojima that changing it will be like, well, you've messed with Kojima's art, because he's got a fan base that no one else really has, which in the end makes it a real, like, this was one of the weirdest reviews I've ever written, in the sense that if I'm reviewing this game as a whole package, that's a straight 10 out of 10, because it's just, okay, here's the best game ever made, it looks a bit prettier, it plays, it's got the controls of the 3DS version but on a console, and otherwise exact same game, right? That, to me, as a whole package, that's a perfect game, right? And then, but if you're reviewing it as a remake, it's like, I don't know who this is for. I don't know what, like, for better or worse, with Silent Hill 2, I can see where Silent Hill goes from here. I can see where the series goes from here. With the Resident Evil remakes, I can see where the series goes from there. With this, I'm playing the exact same game, and I'm being quite negative, but it's still like the best game ever made. It's still a great game. I still cried at the ending after playing it like 10 times. I still adore it. It's one of my favorite.
Do you think Metal Gear Solid 3 is Scott's favorite video game? I'm getting that vibe.
I remember having to go to like multiple Uniqlo shops in London to find all the Metal Gear t-shirts for him. So
I'm wearing one.
Yeah,
I'm wearing one.
Yeah, you're literally wearing one right now. Would you say this is more a remaster than a remake?
Yes.
Because all they've done is made it prettier and maybe changed the control scheme. I would argue that I think a lot of the time games are labeled remakes when they're actually remasters. Yeah. And they're just like prettier versions, like stuff like The Last of Us Part 1, all that kind of thing. I'm like, if it's just the same game but prettier, and like you haven't functionally changed that much, you've just made it a little bit more playable or like pretty, you've remastered something. And that I think has gotten really egregious in recent times, especially actually with Naughty Dog and with all the Last of Us games. And like, if you can play a game on like an Xbox One or a PS4, doesn't need a remake or a remaster. Like, this should be something that we only do to like PS3, Xbox 360, and behind.
I think because they did so
Izzy,
well.
Horizon is almost 5 years old. Exactly. You can't expect people to play a 5-year-old game.
I think because that did so well for them in the PS4 era, where like The Last of Us remastered and all that, they were just like, okay, we can milk this for all this. Because like Sony games have this weird thing about them where like even the mid ones like Horizon are still getting Game of the Year nominations.
I did love Horizon, to be fair.
But so it's weird. I also think that the way we talk about remakes and remasters and all that is strange, because if you look at Capcom, Resident Evil 2, that's a remake. That's like a full-blown remake. Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster, that is technically a remake in terms of they built that game again from the ground up. And, new voice acting and all that. This is Metal Gear Solid 3 is more in the camp of Dead Rising Deluxe Remastered or the Link's Awakening remake from a few years ago. It's like that same kind of thing where like this is just that game again, but so I wouldn't call it a remake, but because the way we've used these words has gotten so weird, like The Last of Us Part 1, that's also one of these. Like, I wouldn't call that a remake. I would call anything like the way we talk about movie remakes, right? Like, The Thing is a remake technically, but that movie, like the 2011 movie, is completely different from the original.
It's a prequel.
Yeah, well,
it just has the same title.
The RoboCop remake as well. Like, it's the same kind of thing. Like, the way we view remakes in films is how Capcom does it with Resident Evil, and I guess Bloober did it with Silent Hill to a kind of less successful extent. But the way we view game remakes is the Psycho remake, where it is, here's the game again. How you remember it.
And it's funny because like the only reason anybody talks about the Psycho remake is to use it as a punchline.
Yeah.
Right. It is shot for shot the same film.
I mean,
there's new actors and it's in color.
No one talks about Funny Games 2007, which is the same thing. But that was directed by the same director, so who even knows? Yeah, I mean, if you want my full thoughts that are less, this is more a chance for me to rant about how fucking weird remakes are and how weird this remake is specifically. My review is on Tech Radar. Go read it now.
If I can add to the remake thing, I think these are actually classed as remasters, but I think when you ask like how I feel about remakes in general, it's like I see potential there. Ultimately, I think they're mostly cash grabs. Like, they're like sequels. They rely on nostalgia and something that's already established for companies to just make money. And I'd rather companies made new stuff, but I get it. They need to make money to keep making stuff, so fine. If this helps fund new games, then I'm happy. What I don't like is when remasters or remakes, I think this is more to Will's point, just really fuck things up. And the one I've noticed it the most with, obviously I know there was one of the Silent Hill that just removed the fog. Final Fantasy X and X-2 always touted as like the most gorgeous, beautiful, spectacular love story in gaming. I never had them on PS2, so I bought the like PS3 remasters, ended up just not getting around to it, and then I saw they're on PS4 as well, and I think CEX was selling them for like a tenner, so I got that, and I remember playing it and being like, Titus. I was like, Titus just looks dead behind the eyes. Like, I was like, there's no emotion here. Like, I don't get how people connected with it so much. I googled it and I saw the cutscenes and stuff from the original, and there's so much more expressive. It's like they've yassified him. Like there's something weird that's happened. I don't know if it's just been like a general AI upscale, or if they.
I can actually speak to this if you want to know the answer.
Yeah, I want to know the answer. Yeah, because it looks like shit compared to the original.
So Square does not have the source code for FF10 anymore. They had to rebuild that stuff. So they don't have the original models. They don't have that stuff. That's the same. They ran into the same problem with FF8 when they did the remaster of FF8. They had to reverse engineer that remaster based on the PC version, which is why there's some weird things about it. So they basically reverse engineered it, and then they had to redo like the stuff because the original version of that game functionally doesn't exist anymore.
Damn. Okay.
And it's to your point, I think but it looks weird, right? And it loses the tone of that stuff. And to Scott's point about like the MGS3 remake, like the one that goes to me is immediately Demon Souls, the Demon Souls remake, which looks completely different and changes the atmosphere in really weird ways that are just like, this isn't the same feeling emotionally, it's not the same aesthetic. Like remember when they talked about like the Mass Effect remaster and they talked about moving the sun and the first planet, it completely changes the lighting on the whole thing and makes it completely different tonally. And I think sometimes people get so focused on like, yes, it technically looks better, but what was being shot for here, like the tone, the mood, the emotion, is just gone because you're not focusing on that. You're focusing on, does it technically look better?
Metal Gear's kind of odd like that as well. Like the new models, obviously there's like these hyper realistic models, but you still got like the anime voice acting coming out of them. It kind of looks a bit odd at times. But I will give them credit to that. I think they did kind of nail the aesthetic in places. Like you can use the kind of PS2 piss filter if you want, but even the like normal aesthetic, it looks nice. Like having that kind of updated like high res foliage, like the sniper fight with the end, like that, I would genuinely say is enhanced by how good this game looks. Because it is really nice. That final area with the boss looks absolutely gorgeous. I will give them that to their credit. But the other weird thing about this is they do the thing that every remake should do, which is you should release the original game alongside it, right? Or before it.
Yeah.
Like I played Silent Hill 2 for the first time a week before I played Silent Hill 2, right? But in this case, if you bought Master Collection like a year ago, you're not getting much out of this, I don't think. Especially when it's like a full price game, it's like $70. But it's still a good game. I don't know. I'm very conflicted. I think that's the problem. I don't really know how to feel because they decided to remake Snake here, I guess, is the problem. Because
I think remakes and remasters are hard to review because I think like the only review score I regret giving was the Klonoa remake, remaster, whatever they called it, which I gave like a 4.5 out of 5 because I thought like this was the first time I'd ever reviewed like a remake or a remaster. And I was like, well, it's the game I remember from my childhood, just a bit prettier and with like, more modern controls, and like it's just easier to navigate the menus and all that. That's pretty sick. Like, what more could I ask for? But I think now that, remakes, remasters are so much more prevalent, I asked that same question, Scott, of like, who is this for now? Like, is it just for fans to relive their childhood in a more convenient way, so they don't have to dig their old consoles out the attic, or is it for new fans? If I'm meant to be playing this as a brand new player, do I review this as though the original doesn't exist? Do I review this as though the original does exist? If so, the games are often like, they'd feel worse because it's like, well, there's a game that already does all this, so this isn't giving me anything new. I think, I think if I could avoid it, I would choose to avoid reviewing most remakes and remasters, because that, until I've like internally kind of answered those questions, because I don't know how to answer them yet.
Yeah, I think it's weird, right? Where you have the question of like, it's two questions, right? The first question is, when you review a game, Like, what is the game trying to accomplish? Does it do that? Is it saying interesting things thematically? Like, how do its systems work together, right? We treat it as like a full-fledged product and a piece of art at the same time, because functionally games are both.
Yeah.
Which makes it weird, but we have to treat them as both. Whereas a remaster, you aren't really reviewing the art so much in a lot of cases. It seems to be not what people want. They want a review of the product part of it. Like, is this a good product? And I think that's a really terrible way to do it. I remember several years ago, I reviewed the PC port of Horizon. And I wrote about the game. And I wrote about, I don't think Horizon is a very good video game. I think the way it, depicts native peoples is weird. I think the way it, I don't particularly like the combat. I think Aloy as a character is like, she goes from like, I have never spoken to anyone in my life to, I am a leader of people, right? Like the most charismatic glow up that any character is. And it's just I don't particularly care for it, right? Like I know Izzy, like I'm not trying to dunk on Horizon. I just don't like it. Right? And so I used that opportunity to write about why I don't like it. And that review went up. And people got so angry because I wasn't writing about the port. I did talk about the port. I thought, it's fine. I didn't have many of the problems that most other people did. So they're like, oh, so you talked about the game and the port was fine? You said it was fine. I was like, I didn't run into those issues. I guess I have better hardware than you. I'm sorry.
Skill issue.
Yeah, this is a skill issue on your part, right? Like, just get better hardware. But the thing that really shifted my view on remakes and remasters was the response to that, was that people were angry that I was talking about the game and not just the port. And it's like, well, what is a remaster or a remake if not a chance to reevaluate not only what the new game is doing, but what the old game did, right? Like, one of the most interesting conversations about the Silent Hill 2 remake, which I haven't played, was about the combat. Because the combat in the original game, which I have played, is terrible. And there's an argument to be made that that's part of what makes Silent Hill 2 interesting. Right? But we didn't want to talk about it. We just talked about the combat was better without really talking about what that changes about like what Silent Hill 2 is. And whether or not that's good. If combat being better in a game like Silent Hill actually makes the game better. If it changes the intention, if it changes, the theme of that game.
I mean,
and I think that like we're really doing ourselves a disservice as critics and writers and even people who just enjoy games when we don't take a remake or a remaster as a chance to reevaluate a game holistically and see like what do these changes actually do, right? And how does that break with or change the original game? And like we should treat it as a conversation between the two works, not like I don't know, whatever we do now.
I'm not going to go on this tangent because I know we're hanging for time, but Silent Hill 2, my biggest problem with it is two of the boss fights, the last one and the really grim one, like the bad one, like the horrifying. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Both of those, like that one specifically took place in like a really small room and you felt really claustrophobic and it was like, oh my god, this is terrifying.
It's cramped, you can't get out, you're forced to look at it. Yeah.
That entire sequence is like a fucking runaway set piece where you're fighting in like a big, massive, like 4 different rooms because the walls have been broken down by it, which is like tonally such a weird choice to me. And the final boss is quite similar, where like you start in that room from the original game, but then you fall through the floor and there's another big chase room. People like that Silent Hill 2 remake. I think that as someone who only played Silent Hill 2 for the first time a week before, that Silent Hill 2 remake has some weird shit in it. Not to mention bin pushing. There's so many puzzles where it is grab the bin and move it across the room. Oh, it does my fucking box in. I can't go on this tangent.
What was it? Oh, The Last of Us Part 2 with the generators. Was it that game where you like it showed off the cool rope physics or chord physics or whatever? Mm-hmm. But there's just a couple where you are kind of just moving a box out. That pissed me off.
I don't think there were any where it was actually like a puzzle, like where it was actually you need to move the bin in fun way. It was literally like move a bin over to like a wee hole or whatever. And I'm like, this isn't a puzzle. This doesn't add anything to the game. There's no one chasing me while I'm moving the bin. There's nothing there. It's just padding. It's like, I know the crawl through a tight space thing is a loading screen hider, but it's literally just like padding. in the most like annoying me. News. We not got much this week because there was a lot, but also it was a show, so we can talk about the show. Let's just start with a big one. Silksong's real. Silksong's actually coming out. That's fucked up. That's really weird. There is a lot of people saying that they might shadow drop it today. I heard a lot of that, but it's actually coming in 2 weeks. I mainly had this in here because I imagine one or both of you are romantically involved with Silksong or have paid attention to Silksong going forward, because I haven't played the original game.
I've not played. I love like the Souls series, so like I like hard games, but this is maybe one of my stranger video game takes. I just, there's something I dislike about a game where simply touching an enemy damages me. And that has always put me off Silksong. It's one of those games where like I know I'll play it at some point because everyone I know who's played it raves about it. But right now I'm just like I don't think it's a game that's for me. So I'll get to it when I get to it. But right now there's other games I'd rather play in my backlog. I'm happy for the fans though. Like, you know, it looks gorgeous. It seems cool. It looks like more of the same, but in like a good way.
I think it's cool that the modern Duke Nukem Forever is coming out. I mean, seriously, like this game has been developed for what, 7 years? It's a long time.
That's kind of where I wanted to go. Like, what happens if this? Like, I think people are going to be disappointed regardless, because how do you have that much build up and not ruin it for yourself? If you get me,
it's either going to be Hollow Knight, and everyone's going to be like, yes, more Hollow Knight. Or it's going to be Hollow Knight, and people are going to be like, what the fuck, this is just more Hollow Knight? Yeah. I don't know if... like I said, it didn't look different. It looked pretty, but like Hollow Knight looked pretty. And maybe it's a bit faster. And again, like I've not properly... Like my housemate played the original, so I watched a lot of him. So maybe it will feel very different when you've actually got it in your hands. But yeah, it didn't look like the kind of sequel that massively changes the formula, and as not a fan, I don't really care either way. I'm interested to see how the fans feel. I loved the bits and pieces of the Jason Schreier interview that we were like seeing getting posted, like getting dissected by our colleagues today, Scott, because I love the fact that they were just like, yeah, it took a while because we were just having a real good time making it and we wanted to keep going. Like, it's not contempt, but just their lack of care about like this very intense community that's been built up and is like dissecting every tiny thing. Because the amount of stories I've written about Silksong, because like something like a letter changed on the Steam page and everyone's like, oh my god, it's coming out. Like that fervor was so intense, and the fact that the devs were just like, nah, we were just making it. Like, we could have taken longer, but we decided, sod it, we out. I quite respect that.
I think it's, you know, I think Issy's right. I think it's one of those games where, and Scott also, you said this too, but like when I called it the Duke Nukem Forever, I wasn't just making a joke. Like, I think it's a Half-Life 3 problem, right? Like, Half-Life 3 can come out tomorrow. It does not matter what that game is. People are not going to be happy with it. Because, and the Hollow Knight community did this to themselves, right? They built this game up to this mythical status, and then they got really obsessed with a game that didn't have a release date, which is one of the most dangerous things you can do. Remember Scalebound? Remember like Deep Down? Remember all this stuff that people thought looked really cool and then just never came out, right? Like, there was a decent chance that Silksong was just never going to come out. Game development's hard. But the problem with it now is you've been doing this for 7 years. You've been gassing it up. You've been gassing yourself up to play it. And at some point, like, it's just a video game. Maybe it's just a sequel to Hollow Knight. Maybe it's dramatically different in some way that we haven't seen that's going to make people upset. But regardless, there is going to be somebody, like, Yeah, man, it was good. It just wasn't worth 7 years of waiting. Like, I don't know why it took 7 years. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter what it is at this point. Like, it has become an idea of itself and not an actual thing anymore. And I don't know. I'm not a Metroidvania guy. I've never played Hollow Knight. I don't particularly care for that genre. No disrespect to the people who do. If you love Hollow Knight and that genre, like, please, more power to you. Go have fun. But like, as someone who doesn't care, looking at this like makes me feel like a crazy person. Because it's like, man, you guys are really into this, and like, the only thing you're gonna do is disappoint yourselves. Like, just it's because the developers are not thinking about it this way. They're not thinking about like the massive pressure to make the Hollow Knight game that people have been waiting on for. They don't think about it. They're just making their game.
Well, that's what I'm impressed with. I was definitely one of the people who thought maybe they are thinking about that, because it was such a it's been such an expectation, right? So that's why I think like more power to them for not buckling under that pressure, or just not even looking at it, just thinking like, we're having fun making our game. Sure, it's taking us 7 years. Obviously, Hollow Knight was still selling. They were still funded. Like, they didn't need to push anything out sooner. Or maybe that is why they finally decided 7 years later, actually, we've got bills to pay. Let's ship something. Like, they can say whatever they want in interviews. The truth is, we'll never know the exact reason anything happens in game dev ever, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm impressed that they've at least said like all that stuff hasn't bothered them.
It's I'm surprised that Metroid Prime 4 is not in a similar boat. Like, people are definitely quite intense about that, but that's been longer. That was announced like 2 months after the Switch came out, which also seems to be coming out this year. It's going to be a big. I think everyone gets one. Is how I feel about it, because when Metal Gear Solid 5 was coming out, like, that was all I thought about. That every day, I'm sure I thought about it. Like, between 2012, end of 2012 to the game coming out, I think I thought about that game every day. You know,
StarCraft 2.
Yeah, like, I think everyone gets one, and even then, I loved Metal Gear Solid 5 when it came out. I still think it's a fantastic game, even if it is like on paper a big disappointment. But I don't know. I hope people are normal when this turns out to just be it's Hollow Knight again. Yeah.
No shot.
But it's either going to be Game of the Year or like the biggest disappointment of the decade.
Yeah, there's no nuance in this.
Yeah. I hope that game is good for those people. I hope they like it.
I think that's a healthy way of looking at it.
Yeah.
But if it's disappointing, then a tough Metroidvania I'd really recommend is Nine Souls. It's actually, funnily enough, that's a port. I reviewed the PS5 port. I'd never played the original PC version, which I think had only come out like a year before. It wasn't like, or maybe even months before. It wasn't like a mad difference, I don't think. But I just reviewed that like a game that I'd never heard of or considered because I hadn't. That was fantastic. Gave that, I think, my highest score of last year.
I recommend Castlevania Symphony of the Night from 1997.
Little known indie game.
I didn't like Metroidvanias either for the longest time. But then I played like every Metroid on the lead up to Dread, and then suddenly I'm into them. You know, I don't know. I also reviewed a lot of bad ones, so maybe don't. Sorry.
Real quick, and then we can move on. Scott, I think to your point, the thing about Metroid Prime though is also like, we know Prime has restarted development like 2-3 times. Like, there's a different team on it now. Like that, and I feel like that's been more information where people have just been sitting and waiting for Hollow Knight, right? And I think once you know, like, they restarted development, whereas you're doing the new team, blah 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 blah. Like, it resets the expectation. Whereas Hollow Knight, we just heard nothing. Like, is it coming? We don't know. We're working on it, right? But I think it's also like, we should treat it the same way as a game that, like, we restarted development or we changed engines or whatever, right? Like, just, it's a thing. Just chill. It'll come out.
I think
anyway.
Best case scenario, it's Pikmin 4. You know, like Pikmin 4 is basically just like Pikmin 2 again. But it came out, everyone was happy. It was a great game. And then like a year or so later, people are like, actually, it's the worst Pikmin. You know, like whatever. Opening night live. I'm not going to go down the list of everything because, frankly, no, I'm not going to do that. But weird show, very weird show. Lot of It's definitely a Gamescom when you get like, 4x, what's that called? 4X games and like simulators and stuff like that. Like, it's a Gamescom when it comes to that, But in terms of the big stuff, Call of Duty, let's just get it quickly. Jesus Christ, what was that? I'm not usually a Call of Duty bad kind of person, but Jesus Christ, that looked obnoxiously bad. I don't know if either of you were taken by that trailer, but
it reminded me a lot of, and I don't remember which one this is, because eventually, like, they all kind of
like 30 Call of Duty games now. They kind of run together.
There is a game that already did a whole like something's going on in your mind in a simulation. It might have been Black Ops 3 or 4. Like, it was a kind of futuristic one. I think it's the one where like a robot rips off your arms at the beginning, which actually that is one of the most like visceral things I've ever seen in a video game, and it was in Call of Duty. That was wild. But yeah, so it did feel like they're rehashing some old stuff. I thought, like, overall, I feel like if you get like 1 or 2 games a year, which, let's be honest, like, I feel like most, like, your average game enjoyer is gonna do, like, we're obviously on an extreme end of the scale where even if we're not getting them free for work, we're just getting a lot of them because we want to write about them or just because that's our life. If it's like the 1 of 2 or 3 games you get a year, I reckon you're going to get a lot of bang for your buck, at least. Like, thinking of it as a product, you got COD, you've got the multiplayer, you've got Dead Ops Arcade, you've got like, that's a lot of game in your game. Yeah, I think overall though, COD's like, it's just lost a lot of visual identity, and I have no idea what's going on in the Black Ops storyline anymore. Like, it just keeps getting weirder and weirder and weirder. Like, I need to really, I know people like laugh at people who play the games for the story, but like, that was a story trailer, that wasn't really a multiplayer trailer.
Yeah,
I'd need to properly like replay all of them to catch up.
You know what's I'm about to say like a really horrible sentence out of context, but my favorite Call of Duty is the Kevin Spacey Call of Duty. I can't remember the name of it, but that was like my favorite campaign. That multiplayer was great,
that take was so bad that Issy got up.
I know. Actually, my favorite one's Modern Warfare 2, but the last campaign I really liked was that one, which I want to say is a good, like, 12 years old now.
Modern Warfare 2?
No, the whatever the Kevin Spacey one was called. I can't remember.
Advanced Warfare?
Advanced Warfare, yeah. The press F to pay respects one.
Oh my god, it was that one.
a lot of the stuff for the show, it's weird how that's like a cultural like phenomenon. Like, that's something that is embedded in culture anyway. I think one of the biggest things of the show was like there was a lot of games that the trailers, even the cool looking games, the trailers were just like, here's a bit more of it. It's like no new info. Like Onimusha, Ninja Gaiden 4, Silent Hill F, Ghost of Yotei. I mean, I guess that had the Legends announcement, and Resident Evil all just kind of felt like, here's a bit more of it. We got no news. And it really speaks to, well, I know we're talking about this later, with the way people announce stuff and shadow drop stuff, that Capcom is still showing Onimusha and there's no release date. And I'm like, why is there no release date? They announced this back in December. Like, Capcom are doing it how you should do it, where you announce the game, it's out in the next year or so. So it's that's my go-to when it comes to that. But yeah, I don't know if you've had any. We covered the show for work, and it was quieter than the Jeff Keighley one from. I think we got like more from Kirby Air Raiders. Yeah, so did I.
I did too. It was the easiest live show I've ever covered, because
yeah,
I feel like we were all just watching it, just being like, well, that's not news.
I think the highlight, at least for me, was that Lego Batman game suit's pretty cool though, right?
Oh, really cool. I didn't actually see it during the show because I was watching sorry, not because I was watching. I was writing a story at the time. That like train rushing.
Oh yeah, that was on the pre-show.
Attack. Yes, I got to preview that. That game is cool.
Man, I saw that and I was like, that's a video game.
That
you know,
sick, yeah.
like that, like capital V, capital G. That's a video game. And I'm a Souls-like sicko. I love the look of all the Souls-like games coming out. If devs just want to release a bunch of like 15 to 40-hour action games, I'm happy with that. I'm like, sick, nice. That's like bread and butter gaming. But something like, what was it called again?
Inch Attack.
Yeah, Inch Attack?
Dench Attack.
Dench Attack, yeah. Something like that. I'm like, that's the kind of game that gets me really excited. Like that, it evokes the like PS2 era of like every week just a bizarre new thing was coming out, because when games took a year and only cost a few million quid to make, you could just make a bunch of them and see what stuck. So love it, super excited about it. Yeah, I think that looks absolutely phenomenal.
I think
that game looks so cool. I wrote the IGN preview for it, and Ryan McCaffrey sent me the info for it, and he was like, "Will, is this something that you'd like to look at?" And I was like, "Are you kidding me? This is the most Will Burger ass video game that has ever been made. Like, what if a train could do a kickflip? Are you kidding?"
So sick.
I thought when they first showed it, I thought this was the new Team Reptile game. Like, it had that kind of same like Bomb Rush, Cyberpunk, Lethal League kind of vibe, which I was like, hell yeah. I think we got one of the peak Jeff Keighley moments on this show, which was when Zawum, is that how you say it? The Disco Elysium people announced their new game, and he was just kind of like, they've been through some changes. Anyway, here's their new game. Like, it was such a like, you know, we know people are not going to be happy about this, but you know, we got the money from them. I don't actually know the story behind that, so I don't really have the capacity to speak about what happened, but I just thought it was like really funny just seeing Jeff go, there's been some changes there, but here's their new game. I don't know if either of you are particularly immersed in that story or anything like that, but
I'm not, because I think you said this in Slack today. Like, you just have to watch hours of documentary, and it's just not something I've invested the time in yet.
God bless those. Is it People Make Games? Is that the name of the YouTube channel?
I think it's them who've done this one.
They've
made 2 documentaries now on it.
I think that's impressive. I think it's like really important work, but I haven't played Disco Elysium, so I've not watched them, so I don't actually know what's going on. My knowledge of the subject is like there's like 6 different splinters from Disco Elysium, and then they ended it with another one of those mid Souls likes, Black Myth Zonghui, is that how you say it?
Who cares?
Which is literally just like,
I'm happy for you.
The way they spoke about it is literally just started development. Like, that's all they had. Apparently, they said something like, we only have empty folders, which, like, that just speaks of, we're riding off of that hype just now.
Well, it's what, I can't remember who I've spoken to about this, but it's a thing with, like, announcing a game years ahead. It seems annoying as, like, a journalist and as a fan, because you're like, well, the fuck am I meant to do with this? Just wait 6 or 7 years? But apparently a lot of it is a way to
hire people,
like attract talent and to hire. Because if people know, oh, I'm going to be working on the new Black Myth game, they're going to be interested. They're going to want to do that. But if you're hiring for like an unknown action game, people might not care. So
I think this show,
it's a shame that there's not like separate channels for that. Like. Or dev specific.
It would just leak.
We're journalists. We'd be looking on those anyway, and we'd be reporting it. So
I think this show was the first time in a while I thought at the end of it, I think I hate Souls likes. I'm tired of them. There's so many, and I don't think I've enjoyed. I mean, I've enjoyed them, but I've never like loved a Souls like that hasn't been a From Software game. Like stuff like oh my god, what was it called? I reviewed it. First Berserker came out this year. I liked that. That felt cool, but it was like, this is a good game, not like, oh, this is on the level of like Sekiro or something, you know.
But I don't know if any game will get to the levels that like From Software does them, because I mean they're just the best at it, right? But to From Software's credit, it's quite a prolific studio. Like, it manages to pump out a lot of games pretty rapidly, especially when you compare it to like Naughty Dog or something like that. But
because they reuse their assets.
Yeah,
it's like RGG Studio, where we've got like I think 7 Yakuza games in the last 2 years or something like that.
Wow, that's wild. But I think it's because I'm just a big proponent of like the 6 out of 10, the 7 out of 10 game. So I'm like, most games are gonna fall into that yeah, they're all right. And for some people, they're gonna love them. Like a lot of people's favorite games are like 6 or 7 out of 10s, but like they speak to them in some way. So I do think it was too many Souls-likes for one show. Like I would have liked to have seen more for sure, because I just think that would have made the show more interesting.
I mean, my biggest problem is that the Souls-like, the 6 out of 10 Souls-like has replaced the 6 out of 10 Devil May Cry ripoff. Like you don't get a normal action game anymore. I saw Stellar Blade the first day. I was like, oh, this looks cool. Then I realized it was a fucking Souls-like, and I was like, oh, okay.
Scott is speaking my language as an action game sicko, right? Like there is an alternate universe where everyone did not look at Dark Souls and say we want to do that. Instead, they looked at like Devil May Cry or Ninja Gaiden or Vanquish or
Black
Bayonetta.
Myth played like
Vanquish. Should have more Vanquish. Yeah.
If Black Myth
and
played
that's
like
a better universe.
Ninja Gaiden.
See, that's the one I want to live in. Is the one where people are like, Vanquish rips. Why don't we make more games like that?
That's why I'm excited for the Phantom Blade Zero, because they're doing that, you know? Like, Stellar Blade, I could ignore the fucking boring characters and like near rip-off music if that game played like Devil May Cry, because I don't care, you know? I played Marlowe Riggs, you know? I'm entrenched in the 6 out of 10 action game. I'm going to skip the other story, but the other thing of that day that I think, honestly, was better than anything in that Gamescom show, Kirby Air Riders Direct, 45 goddamn minutes of Kirby Air Riders. I fucking love Sakurai. I love a Sakurai presentation. They are the best directs in the world, because that dude just does not give a fuck. He is like, I'm going to spend 5 minutes talking about how Donkey Kong's expression changed from Smash 4 to Smash Ultimate. You're going to fucking like it. Love him to death when he does these shows. They're the best. Like, he's on that Kojima level for me, where like just everything he does, I'm like, I am watching, because he is such a, like, you can see the way he makes games when he does these things. Like, I loved the Smash Directs where you'd see him like sitting playing against himself with 2 controllers and stuff like that. Were either of you into Kirby Air Ride at all? Are you excited for Kirby Air Riders?
I am excited for it because it's Sakurai joint. Yeah. Like it's one of those things where like his stuff is interesting. I will play it because he made it.
I'm also, I think the most interesting pull from it was Nintendo asked him to make the game, apparently, which I'm suspicious of, because like he's the Smash Bros machine for them, you know, and like we're at the point now where like, how the fuck do you continue Smash Bros? I think everyone just assumed that Kirby Air Riders 2 was like I don't want to make any more fucking Smash Bros. I will if you give me this, you know. But I would have really wanted a Kid Icarus Uprising 2, which is speaking of like the kind of high, fast-paced action game, one of the best ever made. I think it's a shame it gave me permanent wrist damage because it's on the fucking 3DS. That's also the best Star Fox game. I did have the Bioshock story on here, but we do not have the time for this.
Wait, how much longer are we going for?
I don't know. You're the one who said you had to leave 22 minutes ago.
Yeah, I was gonna. I have 2 Bioshock tattoos, so I'll talk about.
Right. Okay. How do you feel about? I'm not. This is from Jason Schreier's report. I'm not. You can read all of it if you want. I'm not going to read all of it because we don't have the time. Basically, that thing's been rebooted. Much like Metroid Prime 4, that thing's been rebooted a couple times. After 2K shot Irrational, they went to another studio and said, "Hey, can you make one?" They made it for like 2 years. Then 2K was like, "Wait a minute, we're gonna make a team and make one. Go fuck yourself." And the last note was just kind of like, "It's good." Like the internal reviews are like, "It's good, but it's not like a fucking 10 out of 10." And now there has been layoffs at Cloud Chamber. Yes,
yeah, I think
Cloud Chamber. And apparently 2K has brought in Rod Ferguson, who just left the Diablo series and was previously at Irrational before then. So I think we kind of spoke about this last time we talked about Bioshock 4, but like, what do you actually think Bioshock 4 is? Like, what do you do with Bioshock 4, you know?
Yeah, it's like you had a city in underwater. Now you've had a city in the clouds. Without it being my full-time job, I don't know what I'd just pick that I think would be as interesting or exciting. Maybe space. But then it's just like, now you just have made System Shock again. I can't believe it's taken us, what, like 12 years longer? And there's still no Bioshock game? Like, I think it's just an utter failure of 2K. Like, I don't know how you have a franchise, a series that was so culturally relevant. Like, the original Bioshock, everyone credits that as, not even, but like, that's often cited as like one of those games that put gaming on the map for people as like a serious artistic medium because of the twist at the end. It's like, it's one of those games that when you played it as a kid, you were like, oh shit, like everything I thought I was playing, I actually have to consider differently. And it, like, when you play it a second time, and the twist, it really like sticks out. And so how you go from that, like something that had such a good story, to a game that was as mechanically perfect as Bioshock 2, I was deeply disappointed by Bioshock Infinite. I thought, like, on a gameplay level, it didn't really offer much new. It had clearly undergone a lot of changes from what the trailers promised. So I don't know if it was overpromised, if it was mismanaged. I don't know what the hell happened to, like, Ken Levine. I've never really looked too deeply into why or what happened. I think I've heard he's apparently not great to work with. I don't know if that's true.
I mean,
I don't know if
Judas
counts
is
as well.
Also in the same boat where, like, that game has been in development for, what, a good 10 or so years now?
Something like that I understand a little bit more, because I think, even having, like, the cultural cachet is it cash or cachet? Cultural cash? Even having the cultural cash he would have, having to, like, start a studio from scratch and make a game that's going to be on the same sort of like AAA level, I imagine you take time to get off the ground, right? But 2K was established. Irrational Games was established. Like, you should have been able to sit those devs down and go, all right, Ken's gone. You're making Bioshock 4. Like, here's the leader. Like, here's the person who's going to like direct. Bioshock 4's coming out. Get to it. That, I know making games is hard. Like, we all, like, we understand that it's difficult, but at a certain point, I just think it has to be mismatched. Like, no game should take 13 years. And I think the fact that, it failed an internal review and 2K went like, oh, it's good, but it's not great. I kind of wonder, like, in 13 years, we've seen so many different trends emerge and die. And it makes me think, like, was this a live service game at one point? Was this a co-op game at one point? Like, was it just like Suits saying, here's the thing that's making money right now, make Bioshock 4 more like that? And so developers have had to try and shoehorn that in, and it's just been mess after mess after mess. Like, maybe people make games on NoClip or make a documentary. Some of us will watch it and we'll learn the truth one day, but yeah, I'm disappointed. I'm sad people are losing. But, like, it doesn't seem like the correct decision to make if you say, oh, this game's good, but it's not great, so we're going to fire a load of people about it. Like, do you not need your developers to help make that game good?
Well,
it just feels like mismanagement.
We see all these layoffs is like, when you mass fire all these people, that's like years of knowledge that's just gone, There probably have been people fired who've been working on this game for like 10 years. And because of that, they're probably going to make some of the mistakes they made before. And it just kind of goes on and on and on. I think any author is going to be hard to work with to kind of talk about the Ken Levine thing, but it's interesting they brought in Rod Ferguson, because he kind of was brought in during Bioshock Infinite to kind of get that out the door. And obviously he's worked on Diablo as well, which has had its own share of issues, I guess.
Yo, if you bring in Rod Ferguson, that man is a closer. That is what his job is. He is gonna ship your video game.
But I honestly think I would rather just not have had BioShock Infinite than what we got.
I mean, Infinite is...
I also think that's part of it, because the reception to Infinite has gone, like... It came out to, massive acclaim, but I think even within, like, the first year, people were really starting to go sour on it. And that is probably also a part of the case of what do we do here with BioShock 4, Like, how do we avoid... I mean, one way to avoid it is just by being like, what if the racists were also good, or something like that?
I mean, I'm one of the weird people who will say that I'm glad we got Infinite, and I think it's really interesting game, if nothing else. I think it is a really interesting video game. It is ambitious in a way that you don't see major AAA games be ambitious anymore. And it is also like a failure in a lot of ways. It's a really interesting failure. There's a lot of cool things about it. There's a lot of flawed things about it. It's fascinating. And like, you just don't see stuff like that anymore. Like, I'm happy it exists, if only because stuff like that does not happen anymore. You don't see games like that.
I think I need to reevaluate it now, like 10 plus years later, because I remember when I played it, I didn't think it was ambitious. I didn't think it was any of the things you said. So I'd be curious what I think about it now. Sure.
I think it's at least shooting for interesting things. Like it's like it's doing like quantum mechanics. It's doing like, this really like complicated meta narrative that brings in the whole series. Like it does some really fascinating stuff. I just think it doesn't always work. But now it seems like I feel like, the AAA space now is really safe, really safe. And BioShock Infinite, say whatever else you want about it, was not a game that was trying to be safe. Like, it took big swings, and it didn't hit on a good chunk of them, but it swung. And it's really fascinating for me now, when they talk about, like, what are we going to do with BioShock? And the answer is, I don't think they know. Like, BioShock is such a weird thing in the first place, from an era where, like, again, AAA games were much more willing to experiment and take risks. And Infinite kind of wraps that story, especially Buried at Sea. I don't know if you guys played that DLC, but Buried at Sea ties that whole thing into a knot. It's done. Like, I don't know where you go with that again. And I think it's also like the expectation that comes with like being a BioShock game, and what do people want from this? What do people expect from this? I'm sure they've looked at the reaction to what Infinite is now. Although I think that might be an online-only discussion. I think if you asked like regular people who played that game, like what they thought of it, they'd probably be like, yeah, it was pretty good. So I don't know. I just think
to shoot people that had powers. It was cool.
Yeah, like they had powers. Like Troy Baker's performance is cool. Elizabeth is cool. Like whatever. Like there's a big bird that chases you. That's cool.
That's one of my tattoos. I do like the big bird. Like Songbird is awesome.
Cool. It's a great design. And like but like BioShock is such a thing of its time, right? Especially the first one, which is very much like maybe doing something just because the video game character told you to do it is not actually good, right? Like what if we thought about that for a second? And then like that whole series has been about like playing with what the medium does and is capable of, and like how we perceive it. And like games don't really do that anymore on AAA scale. And so like, how do you do that? How do you, make a sequel to like a game series that kind of wrapped itself into a knot? Like, what do you do?
That's kind of what I was kind of getting at, because I also think of Spec Ops: The Line. Like at the time, like obviously we were in the peak of like a rack shooter game coming out, like 10 of them coming out every year, and it did all that. Whereas if that game came out today, does it have the kind of impact that game had? I know that wasn't quite as big as like a BioShock or something like that, but I think because, and a part of it is just like indie games, you know, we are used to kind of more thought-provoking things on this smaller scale, whereas AAA development's gotten safer and safer. And it kind of goes back to that Kojima thing where he was talking about making it Death Stranding 2 more spiky, I guess. Where compared to the average AAA game, Death Stranding 2 is like way out there, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, does a game like BioShock, if BioShock 1 was released like next week, does that have the same impact because we now have games like, you know, Mouthwashing or Disco Elysium and all that?
Yeah, definitely not. But I think that's kind of what Will was talking about earlier, where it's like these things are products of their time, right? Like it's another video game tattoo, Haze, right? That game, I think, took a really big swing with its plot. Like
gaming is my religion, and Haze is the shit.
Never that. But this plot of like, you know, you're a private military contractor, soldier, you're pumped with these drugs, and you're going off to like cleanse rebels, and turns out you're just shooting unarmed civilians. Like, you know, it's a concept so good that that Black Mirror took it as well. And we know Charlie Brooker's a gamer, so I reckon he played Haze, or at least read about it. Yeah, like that came out in 2008, and I think, yeah, AAA games were willing to have moral quandaries like that, which I think is, nowadays, it's definitely something that like you just said, we see it in indies a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem. Like, everything's so expensive.
It's also worth noting, like, to Scott's point about seeing it in indies, and like, would BioShock have that impact if it came out today? Like, those indies probably don't do the stuff that they do if it's not for games like BioShock and Haze and Spec Ops, right? Like, we take kind of the impact those games had for granted, but if you say the white phosphorus scene to people who know what, like, who are into the medium, they know what you mean. It's Spec Ops, right? In the same way you say, like, the Would You Kindly twist, like, people understand that, right? Like, those sequences have transcended the games that they came out in, and they've had a major impact. So I don't think it's like something we can look at ahistorically and be like, would it matter today? Well, we are where we are today because of those.
Yeah, because of those.
I didn't mean it like specifically like, you know, if they never existed, would it matter today? It's more of a like, how does BioShock have that same impact today? When, because that's what that series was. I mean, less so 2 was kind of more in the straight sequel department, but like 1 and Infinite had that thing to say. But because of those games, we're at a point now where like saying that isn't as impactful, I guess. And I think that is maybe why we've taken so long to get here with a new BioShock and Judas and whatever else development hell games have been coming, you know.
Maybe that is the effect an auteur like Ken Levine, like Hideo Kojima has on a game, where you need that driving force to steer and stop it crashing, or maybe.
I forgot what I was going to say. I blanked. I had something I was going to say.
No, I think, Scott, I think that's like a really good point, right? And like, I do think that a lot of it is the expectation of it, right? In the same way that we talked about the expectation of like what Hollow Knight is, right? Like, the BioShock has an expectation built into it. Whether anybody wants to acknowledge it or not, it's expected to be well written, it's expected to be smart, it's expected to take on social issues, whether or not it does it well, right? It's expected to like make you think, it's expected to be a thinking man shooter, right? Like, all of that stuff. And like, the genre, the games have changed so drastically from 2012 when Infinite released to now that it's bonkers if you just look at what comes out now and what we play and what we talk about and what we write about and what we think about. And sometimes those changes are for the better, but I do think that like the main problem with it is like the AAA space is just not willing to swing that hard anymore. And how do you do that when you're making BioShock?
That's why I like where we are at BioShock with Capcom at the moment. Because Capcom's back in a point where, because they made such a good Resident Evil, because they made such a good Street Fighter, because they made such a good Devil May Cry, we're starting to see that. We had like Dragon's Dogma 2, for as AAA as that was, as kind of, Dragon's Dogma was kind of popular, weirdly. Like, that game is so against you so many times that it is like weird to see from an open world action adventure RPG type thing. And now we're getting a fucking puzzle game shooter coming out next year. We had Kunitsu-Gami last year. Like, it's refreshing that Capcom is doing that, where like, because we're doing so well, let's take these swings, let's make that stupid dinosaur shooter. Why not? Let's try it, But
it's the kind of thing companies should be doing when they're doing well.
Like Ubisoft's got all the money in the world. Why are they not, fucking about? Like Activision could make everything, but we're worried about Call of Duty not making as much money this year because the fucking Peter Griffin's game didn't sell as much. Like,
we could have another Burnout game, and instead Criterion's just probably tweaking the tanks in Battlefield.
Yeah, we can't move forward unless we spend the money, and Capcom is probably the only. I mean, there are others, like Bandai Namco put out that weird Pac-Man game, like, cool, whatever. But like, in terms of like big AAA projects that are weird, I can't think of anyone other than Kojima and Capcom doing it at the moment, and that's because they have that success to build off of, but you can't push forward without spending the money. But everything's so expensive now that by the time whatever the fuck the Naughty Dog game that comes out as, whatever that's inspired by, isn't going to be relevant anymore. If that's a Souls-like or something like that, are Souls-like still going to be a big deal in like 15 years' time when they finally release a game?
Who knows?
Questions. Only get two. Moderator Leslie, I don't know. Why don't you wear more fun shirts? Because Henry has a patent on it, and he hits me if I wear a fun shirt. I've got a couple. A4 Gaming. How do you personally deal with combo blow in character action games like Devil May Cry or Bayonetta? Do you just stick with the few you learn early on, or do you meticulously try them all to expertly deploy them when appropriate? I mean, you're a character action game guys. Well, I don't know if you like have a certain approach to it when you start a new game. But I feel like a lot of these games kind of tease you into it almost. Like Devil May Cry. Like when you start as Nero, you have like 2 combos, and then you could buy more in the shop. And then when you get to that final point, I imagine you've practiced like the new combos you get to the point where you can, like by the time I'm playing Bloody Palace in a Devil May Cry game, like I'm doing fucking anything I can, because I've spent the whole game slowly learning these skills and building it up. But at the same time, I'm playing these for years and don't really get overwhelmed by that. I don't know if you feel kind of in the same boat.
Yeah, I think for me it's the same way in that there's a lot of experience, right? So I don't think about it that way anymore. But I think it's the same way I approach learning a fighting game, which is that like I have a moveset and I'm going to play around with my moveset and I'm going to see what it does. And I think that modern action games especially do a really good job of like scaffolding you into how to build a combo or what the combo is going to be and how it's going to work. When you buy an upgrade, it's like, oh, you get an extra hit on this, or like now you can, add a heavy attack to the end of this chain, or now you can put a heavy attack here, right? Like, and so it's like, it's the stuff that you have and they're adding like small things to it. And then it's like, oh, okay, I knew how to do that. Now I can just add this, right? And so I think it's not so much a question of combo bloat for me. It's about being like very, what's the word I'm looking for? Very thoughtful about what I want to do. And being like, what does this allow me to do, right? And experimenting. I think like the joy of a character action game is in the experimentation and finding the stuff that works for you and allows you to express yourself as a player. And so, what I would say is like, just play around. Those aren't games you're meant to play once anyway. Like you're supposed to play Devil May Cry like 5-6 times, then go into Bloody Palace, right? Like that's the ideal way to play it. The first playthrough is a dry run. It's like, all right, let me learn. And then you go and you play on higher difficulty, and you take those skills and you go and you play on higher difficulty. So I don't think it's like sticking to the same thing. I think it really is being like intentional with your thought of, I'm going to experiment and I'm going to try this. I'm going to see what that does. And once you do it enough, and once you play enough action games, like a lot of that stuff just becomes something you understand and you don't have to think about.
I don't really think people make this connection in their head often, but I've thought about this for years and I've thought about writing about it. But Devil May Cry is just Tony Hawk. Like you can beat a Tony Hawk mission by just doing like 10 kickflips, or not, obviously not. You know what I mean? You can beat Devil May Cry by doing your one combo like that, but the joy of those games comes from doing the weird shit that you can play about with in those systems. And I kind of, if you view it more like that, I think it makes a bit more sense, because like Tony Hawk is like, you know, you can pick up and play Tony Hawk whenever, like, but you see the shit that people do with Tony Hawk and it's like, I don't know if you're an action game guy, Issy, or...
Yeah, much more when I was younger. Like, I was actually just thinking the way you described it as like Tony Hawk made me think of Prince of Persia: Warrior Within.
It's parkour, baby. It's the same thing.
So like, yeah, the second one where there's so many moves where like you can just jump over an enemy, do a little like slash and you're behind them, and then you just keep doing that. And you can do that, and it's functional, and you'll kill them. But the more powers you unlock and the more you play the game, and the more you're like, do you know what, this is boring, I want to like try some weird shit. By the end of it, when you're like, like running up walls and like hacking away at people and break dancing on the floor and like dropping one weapon and picking another one up and doing all this sick shit, it's just so exhilarating. And God of War especially, I think, is a game that like both the original versions and the do well, where as you progress and level up and like unlock new abilities and attacks, you just keep going. Like, you have your fundamentals, and then it's very like situation dependent what you add. I think for me, nowadays, if I'm playing a game and it's not challenging me and I can just get through with one combo, I'm probably just using that one. And then if I sort of get to a point where I'm like, I'm dying more, like this isn't as fun anymore, that's when I'll maybe have more of a look at, okay, what's actually available to me? What am I not utilizing? And I'll properly root around in my toolkit, and that's when I'll have a lot more fun. Because like now I have to try harder. I think one game that I don't know how much of like a character action game. Well, it's not a character action game, it's an RPG. But The Witcher 3, I really struggled to get into The Witcher 3 because it was just too easy. I was like, I don't need to be a Witcher. Like, I can just go up to anything and just mash square, and that's good. I'm done. But putting it on the highest difficulty, I think, like, I used to work with Keen Mur, who now like works on The Witcher. I think he's the one who told me, like, if you can't get into it, bump the difficulty up. It makes you feel like a Witcher. And honestly, that worked really well. Like, I got further into it than I ever had because I had to learn the combos. I had to learn to make the potions. I had to, like, in-game read, like, what's a griffin weak to? What's this thing weak to? So, yeah, that's been my approach. Like, play until playing's not fun, and then see what tools are available to me and get weird with it.
Specifically with character action games, like, a lot of it's down to you just have to want to look cool.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
When you play as Dante, yeah, you can get by fine with just the sword, but see, when I swap out the sword to the nunchucks and then the motorcycle and then this mid-combo, I'm like, hell yeah, that rocks. And I think that's a lot of it. You just want to look cool. Just
you need to want it.
It's a mindset thing, right? It has to be like, not even just wanting to look cool. For me, it's, and this is like a really weird thing, but for me, like, a game is like, you're looking for a way to be perfect for like 3 seconds. And the joy is in finding like those 3 seconds where you can do something perfectly. And whatever that thing is for you, right? And so, like, a character action game moveset, you come up with, like, I'm going to do a combo. Same thing with a fighting game, right? And the joy is executing the combo and being perfect. And I think, like, if you approach it that way, in the terms of like the way you'd approach a rhythm game or Tony Hawk or whatever, where the joy is like being able to express this thing that you can do, like, you don't think about so much of like, I only have a few things that I want to do. It becomes more of a challenge to be like, what can I actually accomplish? And I think that makes playing it more fun.
I think like Devil May Cry specifically, obviously that's kind of the first of its kind, and that teases you into it, because a lot of people give shit to the ranking system, like the A and the S and all that showing up on the screen at the time, but that's kind of the game's way of telling you, hey, maybe like fuck about a bit, you know, like you can do it this way, you know, no, nothing's stopping you, you're not getting punished for doing it this way. Maybe, you know, maybe just start being cool.
It's the same with Doom, isn't it? Like, where the music gets more intense, the cooler and faster you're killing. But I think what you said about wanting to be perfect, I think that's what makes Sekiro like one of the best games ever. Where, you know, when I first played it, I was crap, but then, or like when you're first fighting a boss, you're rubbish, and then like by the end of that Genichiro fight where you're fighting him on the tower, when you're just deflecting, counterattacking, doing like lightning returns, like doing all this sick stuff, you feel like that shinobi. You're like, yeah, I've earned this kill, like I rule, I'm the best thing in the universe. That is such an unbeatable feeling.
That is why Sekiro is my favorite one of all the Souls games.
It's
because in another Souls game, if I'm stuck in a boss, okay, I can go level up somewhere. And Sekiro, it's like, fucking get good right now. Otherwise, you're not beating it. That.
Yeah. It's why I think Sekiro is the hardest Souls-like as well.
Yeah.
Like,
I think my take here is, and this is probably another podcast, is probably that Sekiro isn't really a Souls-like.
No.
It is really an action game, like in the traditional sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a mindset thing, and I think it's like, you know, finding like the moments of like joy in executing a thing perfectly, in the same way that like there's a joy in watching an engine run perfectly, and you know, or fixing something and watching it work where it didn't work. And once you get into that mindset, like the action game as a genre just becomes a place where you want to play.
One more question from Lex. How would you torture someone that causes a crime in a Gamescom bathroom? One, I wouldn't torture myself. Two, I was at a wrestling show yesterday that went on for 5 hours. I'm immune to what a Gamescom bathroom could throw at me. Let's maybe not linger on that too much. Okay, gold tier shout outs. This is for our gold tier patrons, which you can find us on patreon.com. I hope /rewinder. I probably should have checked that before I started talking about it. Or you can go straight to the website. We have a subscribe button right on the top left, where you can give us money, because please. Yes, patreon.com /rewinder. We're going to shout out the gold tier subs. And that's Owen Waters, Chris Hannay, Caladrius, Brantford Hubbard, Daniel Noak, and Guy Thompson /A4 Gaming, who asked us that question about character action games just there. And thanks to everyone else who has subscribed to us over the years. I think we are in a pretty good spot now. We're getting a lot of good stuff out. Jason has been doing a trilogy of Final Fantasy 15 pieces that I've been really enjoying. And we're going to have some stuff coming back from Gamescom from Lex and Henry when they return. Well, where can we find you? What are you up to?
You can find me on Blue Sky at Edgar Allan Bro. You can find me at IGN a lot, Check News, basically anywhere where there's, you know, where there's games writing. I've probably got a byline there at some point.
There's Americans.
But if you really want to find some stuff that I'm very proud of, please head over to skyboxcritics.com. You know, we also have a Patreon. Throw us some money. We're doing some great work. We did recently a thing where we talked about games that AI could never make, and we're doing some stuff that I think is really cool, and we're trying to make a space, much like Rewinder is for good writing and good criticism. So find us there.
And Baldy?
I'm Words by Issy on pretty much any social media. I'm most active on Twitter because I love the cesspit of it. Like I wanted to be a Blue Sky convert, but I had to acknowledge I like the gutter. That's where I'm at.
I enjoy dipping my toes in every so often, but we had this conversation recently because Henry was like, I'm going to cancel our social media thing for Threads, and I was like, why the fuck were we on Threads?
Yeah, I'm not on Threads.
Threads is worse than Twitter. Threads is fucking LinkedIn for at Twitter, and it's like just as much like hard people on there.
I think everything is LinkedIn, but Twitter. Like Twitter is Twitter. Everything else is trying to be LinkedIn. Everything that does video is TikTok, and so that's why I like Twitter, because I'm like, it's the one place where anyone doing LinkedIn bullshit just gets bullied.
You're not gonna plug your cooking account, which you haven't updated in a while. Get the cooking account back, Izzy.
Oh yeah, let Izzy cook. Actually, the Words by Izzy thing I have on Instagram, that's like I made one single video. I was really proud of it, and then I've just been too busy to like invest in any of my personal projects. Hence why Let Izzy Cook has also kind of fallen by the way. But yeah, I write for Games Radar mostly. Occasionally you'll find me at other places. But this year's mostly been, since Rolling Stone stopped getting freelancers, it's just Games Radar basically, and like the odd review on Push Square.
It's definitely a fun time to be a freelancer. I feel bad for all the editors who have to send the same email every day. Thanks for making it fucking depressing, has it? We're gonna be back in 2 weeks. I don't know if we have any other video stuff planned in the meantime. I might take a break for the next podcast because I'm fucking beat. As for me, please check out my Metal Gear Solid Delta review on techradar.com tomorrow, because I worked very hard on it. I'm very proud of it. And it's, I don't like to get too, like, emotive with stuff like this, but it is, like, a cool one for me, like, oh, I gotta fucking do it, Same with Death Stranding was, like, I gotta do that. And now I've got no joy left, and it's just gonna become a fucking job for the rest of my life. So, on that, thank you for coming, you two. Thank you for sticking about, and time to go try and edit this and put it up in a timely fashion, which is not going to go well.
Enjoy.
See ya. Bye.
Yeah,
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.